This is Dr. Eric Woodard, and today I want to talk to you about cat puke. So years ago I had a client named Bob, and Bob was fantastic. He was a nice guy, considerate, smart, awesome. It turned out that Bob was living in the basement of the house he grew up in. His parents lived upstairs, and Bob was in the basement, and he was trying to land like his first job, like his first awesome job, and then hired me to be his coach. And Bob in particular, was having trouble getting traction on his job search. So as we got working together, I noticed that Bob had a way of letting things get in his path of what he said he wanted to do. And so this one time, Bob and I met, and we figured out that we had a real clear agreement around what he was going to do with his resume and his cover letter and his networking and all that good stuff. So the next time after that we met, I said, Bob, how did all that work go on what you said you were going to do? And Bob looked kind of pleased with himself. And he's like, well, Eric, I got to tell you, it didn't get done. So I said, okay. I said, I understand. I said, can I ask you something? Bob said, sure. I said, what happened? He said, and this is when he got really excited. He said, hey, so here's what happened. My parents were away. They were off for a week or so. And they have these cats that live upstairs. And what happens is when the parents are away, cats get nervous and they puke. They puke all over the house. So clearly I couldn't work on my resume because I had to spend all my time cleaning up cat puke. And I was like, sure. I said, I hear you on that. I said, can I ask you one more thing? And Bob said, oh yeah. I said, Bob, what do you think you're teaching yourself? Every time you bend down and spend time cleaning up that cat puke instead of working on your future, like what are you teaching yourself like is important? And Bob looked somewhat concerned, and I continued, and I said, Bob, what if you left the cat puke on the floor and walked by it a lot of times and kind of like smelled it and really got an experience of the cat puke as a reminder to yourself that your future is more important than cat puke. And so that's a great metaphor, right? The question I have for you is, where are you spending time in your life cleaning up cat puke instead of building your future? There's this thing, it's called the reticular activating system. And this is the part of our brain that tends to help us see things that we're focused on. So for example, we might go buy a new car and we drive off the lot, and as we drive off the lot, we're like, nobody's got this car. I got the best car ever. And then on your way home, you see that car 3 times, right? Or you're walking through the airport and you hear the announcement, and then all of a sudden they say, Eric Woodard, white courtesy phone, Eric Woodard, and you hear it clear as a bell. It's because our brain will literally sense the things that we're paying attention to. There's a reason that NASCAR drivers, when they drive 500 miles in a circle, that they're really careful not to look at the outer wall, because their car will tend to go where they look. And so what the point here is it's important to be careful what you're focusing on, but it's also really important to be intentional about what you ignore. You might be familiar with, there's a Cherokee story where it's often depicted, there's a grandfather talking to his grandson about life, and the grandfather says, grandson, in many of us there's a fight that goes on inside. There's a good wolf and an evil wolf, and the evil wolf is angry and greedy and has a lot of shame and guilt. And there's a good wolf that has joy and love and peace and optimism and hope. And he says, grandson, you got to know that the same fight is going on in you. And so the grandson says, Grandpa, well, which wolf will win? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. The one you feed. So I would argue that it's a little bit more complicated than just a good wolf and a bad wolf, especially today. We've got not just like a good wolf and a bad wolf, we've got a whole pack of wolves. It's actually an army of wolves. And they're puking. Some of them everywhere. Lots of wolf puke. So it's not just a matter of focusing on the right thing. It's also like all those piles of cat puke or wolf puke or whatever puke it is. It can seem really important because other people can come to us and say we should care about it. Or we can judge ourselves and say, I should, I'm bad because I'm not caring about it or whatever. And the opportunity is to ignore the wolf poop or the wolf puke or the cat puke. There's also wolf poop, by the way, right? Ignore it all so that you can focus on the things that really matter, that are going to make your life better. Because when you do, you can keep the important things important and lovingly send what's not important out of sight.